Not all my life is digital, so I'm looking for some photos because I have a talk to do, and they're in photo albums, and I think I've labeled all of them. I hope I have, and somehow one day all of this that's on file here will be digital, but I want to show you something. So great. As well as preparing for my talk, the calendar today says there's a kind of magicness about going far away and then coming back again, all changed. Well, I know that many young people in New Zealand go for a gap year. Now they're going for adventure, excitement, but there's a part of it that they want to say to their family, look, when I come back, I'll be different. I'll have a different view of the world. I'll know more. I'll be different. I want to prove that. Well, I remember two things just looking at these albums, not to do with so much with my talk, but there have been two occasions when I look back and I want to share with you. One is my mother didn't recognize me when I came back from a trip to Central Australia. I was leading a group of young people. We had a wonderful time, great adventures, unbelievable experiences. But somehow not drinking as much as I should, in the sun all the time. I was much thinner and much browner, and my clothes were very dirty. And when I got off the bus, she cried. When I said, Mum, it's me, hello, she just cried. The second experience was far more to do with what the calendar talks to us about today. I was 25 just and wanted to test out my ideas. I loved working in the church. I had a degree, but I wanted to test out my own ideas, my own thinking and understanding. And so with the help of the Methodist Church in Queensland, Australia, I went on a trip for 8 weeks. Their help was with the itinerary, but I funded it all myself. Conferences, meeting some ministers that I'd learned about who were doing some really great things, looking at the way churches were constructed in terms of education and welcoming children. I was so excited, and that trip was formative in my understanding and in the way I work. I had lots of ideas, but what I realized was that there are good ideas everywhere. And every idea I ever had already been thought of. But it's what you do with the idea and the way you commit to it and develop it was what I could see was having the greatest effect. And I did come home a changed person. And one of the biggest things that changed me was my understanding of how a commitment to people really makes the difference. There were lots and lots of programs to boggle the mind, something we couldn't do in Australia. We didn't have the resources or the size. But where I could see that a person was passionate and had almost had a conversion to believing in a principle that brought life to others. So when I came back, I somehow could see my ideas in a perspective of a whole world of great ideas, and to choose which ones that I could use and how I could take an idea and work with people, but to commit to the person first, above and beyond your idea. Now that's the challenge. I learned about that on that trip at just 25, and I know some of you are 25 and some much older, but that principle changed the way I worked. What I want to say to you is that it's very hard to change the way you work. You have to keep reminding yourself of why it is you're working. And so I look at these pictures, the one in the desert, and me on that trip, and sometimes very alone, but not lonely. God be with you in your aloneness, thinking about what you're going to do with your life, how you'll commit to people, and ideas that you have. Some are just ideas, but some are there for you to help make happen. And there will be people nearby, people who say, can I walk with you in that idea? Right now, this part of the world, I can't speak for all the world, but this part of the world needs initiative, ideas that are rooted in a commitment. So I came back a changed person, not in my appearance. I wasn't shaggy and thin, but in my understanding of somehow what was the purpose of the way I would work. Well, God be with you. God loves you, and I hope and pray you find that love in the company of humanity.